This is the city we call our own. These are the stories of the people we call our neighbors. This is the heartbeat of our hometown. Naperville, this is Real Talk. Welcome back to Naperville Real Talk. This is the podcast where we talk about all things of interest. If you live in Naperville, work in Naperville, some sort of connection. We've got great guests lined up all season long. I hope that you tune in. We're excited to be in our new studio here at the Naperville Yellow Box. And I'm just excited to share with you some great stories, and hopefully that'll inspire you as you watch. And I hope that you can get connected with our guests to help you, help them, and honestly just make Naperville a better place. So my name is Chris Grano. I'm the host, and today I'm super excited to present my guest for the day. She's a friend of mine. She's a member of BNI Naperville Elite, a networking group here in Naperville, and she's doing some amazing things for really worthy people all around the Chicagoland area and even the country. And I want to say thank you to Shelley Maxwell for being here today. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Shelley, you're with the ATI Foundation, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of our viewers and listeners are probably familiar with ATI Physical Therapy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But just like myself, they might not know, what is the ATI Foundation?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm sure most of you have heard of ATI Physical Therapy, which is a national physical therapy brand. But the ATI Foundation was actually established by ATI Physical Therapy over 20 years ago. And they established that as a way for employees, patients to give back to the community. And we are technically a separate organization. So we have our own 501c3 charitable organization. We are a public charity. And I am a team of one over at the foundation. So we do rely a lot on support from ATI Physical Therapy employees as well, just for events or even referrals for beneficiaries, because as you stated, we do a lot of work around Chicagoland, but we have that national footprint. So we get to make an impact in a very large space, and I'm very honored to be able to do that.
So I think you and I have talked before, and I think the more you think about it, there is definitely a natural connection between ATI Physical Therapy and the foundation. It kind of makes sense, but maybe for folks who might be thinking like, well, why do they have that?
Absolutely. So ATI Physical Therapy exists to make you your best self, right? To make every life an active life in however they can. In order to help that and to truly give back to the community, they established the foundation to support people with physical impairments. And we do that in two ways. Our mission is very, very general, actually, I would say, but there's intent behind that. And our mission is to support people with disabilities to lead their most fulfilling lives. The point of that is it's not up to me or anybody else to really say, hey, we want to give you a grant, but you have to do this, this, and this for that, right? Everybody's different. You're unique, I'm unique, and that's no different for people with impairments. We want them to really drive what they're able to do with any grants that they receive. And so we do that in a variety of ways. We do individual grant awards, and then we do organizational sponsorships as well. But with the individual grants, we get to kind of, if it's additional therapy hours that you need, if it's a home modification that you need, if you want to participate in an adaptive recreation program, that's where we can step in, and we really do exist to fill in those gaps of service. We don't want anybody to feel like they can't lead what people may typically call a normal life. We want you to lead your normal life and what that is going to mean to you. And we're here to help sort of fill in those gaps in service.
So let me back up one step and kind of ask you, how did you get involved with ATI? What's your background and what leads you into helping people in this way?
Yeah, so I feel like I need to really start off by saying I have no idea about physical therapy, other than being a patient myself.
That's fair.
I have had a few surgeries that required physical therapy, but no, that is not my background. My background is truly in nonprofit, and that's how I got here. So it started, I've been in nonprofit for almost my entire career. I started off doing editing for local nonprofits in the Chicagoland area for their newsletters. Okay. And that sort of got my foot in the door. From there, I became a grant writer. And once I started down that path of nonprofit, I knew there was no turning back for me. there was just there's nothing quite as fulfilling. And so I wanted to soak up as much as I could about just all aspects of that. And I ended up asking for a little bit more responsibility on the program side of things and learning how to do those day-to-day operations, the direct support aspect of that. And I kind of comboed all this, did sort of as much as I could with the little smaller nonprofits I was working with. And when this opportunity came up, I just thought truly I'd throw my hat in the ring, and it really worked out, and I just love what I'm doing. I've been there for a little over 2 years now, and it is wonderful. And yeah, my background started as a grant writer. Now I do all of the day-to-day, but I really am in there. I mean, I mentioned before, I'm the only employee.
What's that? What's that like being a staff of one? Yeah.
So it's difficult, and I think it's interesting because it brings another element to things. When you're a person in need, there are so many times that you're trying to find help and you don't know if you're getting the right person. You don't know who you're talking to when you're reaching out to, especially for some of these larger nonprofits. And when you're applying for a grant, you're applying to me. I'm the only one who sees your application. I'm the only one who pushes forward those details to our board of directors and makes those recommendations. And so truly my goal is to get you to that finish line, however that's going to look. And it's a little bit different. It's a unique role. It's a lot of work. But I have so many people who their heart's in the right place and wanting to help. And when you think about maybe the field of physical therapy, most people did not get into that field to not help people. So it's a big part of their lives. And, you know, I am technically a team of one, but I have hundreds of employees who want to help and want to share in this and help throw events and help do fundraisers and all that good stuff. So it can be a lot of work, but it is the most rewarding career I've ever had and I ever will have.
I think that's great. I mean, it speaks to the character of the employees of ATI, right?
Yes.
Who that they want to be involved, that they're so passionate about the foundation.
Absolutely.
I want to talk in a little bit about some of the specific examples of your beneficiaries.
Yes.
But first, I think a lot of people, you know, if they're not involved in the nonprofit world, particularly, you know, they might not understand, like, okay, well, don't we have government programs for
Sure.
these kinds of things? And what's the difference? Where are those gaps that you fill where maybe a state or city or federal doesn't?
Absolutely. So the biggest gap would be gaps in insurance coverage. And that, unfortunately, I think is something that a lot of people do understand. And if they don't understand it personally, they have someone in their life that insurance didn't cover everything that they needed, or say they're going through something that's a terminal or a chronic illness, they stop those coverages, or there are so many different things. And now that's not to say that there aren't phenomenal insurance companies out there who do truly help and do everything to cover those costs, but a lot of times there are just additional costs that insurance doesn't cover. So a good example that I like to give is in wheelchairs, because a wheelchair should be technically covered under pretty much anybody's insurance policy if that person needs one. However, they really have a fine line between what's considered durable medical equipment, like a wheelchair. And so you may be able to get a manual wheelchair covered, but is that most efficient for your lifestyle? Do you have the strength to be rolling yourself around all the time, or would you have more benefits in your life and be able to do more things and access the world more if you had a power chair and one that you can roll around in? Well, insurance is going to often say you don't technically need it, but you do.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of the world. You want to be able to access those things. Insurance also will not come to your home and put in a wheelchair ramp because you now need it. You know, there are just these different things that truly the costs fall onto the family. And there are a bunch of other ways that, especially now, crowdfunding is a huge thing. So somebody unfortunately experiences an accident that leaves them paralyzed or anything like that, you can go on a GoFundMe or other crowdfunding and get some of that support. But it's not always going to be enough. And so that's why we're here, typically those gaps that I'm talking about is really with medical insurance.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So, and talk about the grant writing process. I mean, like what level of detail is required there, and you know.
So as far as applying to a grant for us, it's a one-page application. It's mainly to get the ball rolling. And the reason it's that generic is because, like I said, people want different things and they would like to use these funds towards different things. So we take into consideration a myriad of sorts. Did you try going through insurance? Do you have secondary insurance? Things like that. But so often the little box comes back that's clicked, it's not applicable. This is not something that insurance would cover. This is something that truly falls on me. A great example of this would be like an adaptive bike for a kid. I mean, I personally, oddly enough, not a bike rider. I was always a rollerblader. It just, never, people are always like, oh, it's as easy as riding a bike. I'm like, oh, so it's really hard then. so a really difficult thing. But you know what, I go out, especially now, nice weather, you're seeing all these kids going around and riding their bikes. And then you have somebody with a limb difference who maybe even needs something like an adjustable handlebar. They don't make those, right? Those are specialty made, and those fall on the family to get those costs. And when you have other medical bills and things that truly take precedence for the health and well-being, those things are what fall away.
Yeah.
They go to the wayside. Maybe we can afford it next year. That's where we like to step in and say, like, we can help you with that handlebar modification. We can help you with an entire adaptive tricycle if that's what your need is.
So, perfect segue. Talk a little bit about some of these cases. Some, I mean, I've heard you mention them before, and I mean, I think for, the reason I really wanted to have you on the podcast too is just, if we don't have contact with someone who has a physical disability or has a unique need like some of these people do, you might go throughout your daily life and never even consider it.
Right.
Right. And I think it's not only important to be aware, just I think so we can be better people and kind of be aware of, what some of our fellow humans' struggles are.
Yep.
But so we can know how to help too.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, we'll talk about ways that we can support your foundation. But share with us some of the people that you've been helping lately.
Sure. Yeah. So we have gotten a few applications actually recently pushed through. And what I love about this foundation is that we don't have limits on age or anything like that. So kids, adults alike can apply to be a recipient for the foundation. And so we recently had this was a kind of a fun story, actually. So we actually had a girl, she's 6 years old, her mom reached out and they were looking for an adaptive bike, and something we absolutely do. Now, in my work, though, I've also made quite a few connections with people who do these types of modifications for bikes. And so I happen to know of another little area, another organization who was doing adaptive bikes at the time. And I said, hey, maybe you can apply to this, because then you would be able to utilize the funds from us in a different way or for a different need. And so we were able to do that. So we got her an adaptive bike through another organization, and then they were able to come back and get behavioral therapy, ABA therapy for her daughter, which is not covered by insurance. And the cost is out of pocket, it's like $100 a week.
Which is a lot for a family.
Which is a lot for a family who's already struggling. And so we are able to get her covered through the year now, and they don't have to worry about it. It's one less thing off their plate. And then we had another gentleman who he's a paraplegic. He has been confined to a wheelchair for the past 15 years. He has kids. He has kids that he wants to be able to play with, that like any dad does, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to spend that time as much as you're able with your children. And he has sort of over the years did his own home renovations, right? Maybe they're not quite up to par. Maybe they wouldn't pass code, but he's, not in a historical building. It's just his house.
Yeah.
And he's been truly fine with that. But when he heard about this grant opportunity, he reached out and said, can I maybe upgrade some of the things in our home? And that's exactly what we're doing. So we are building him a ramp that kind of goes through his yard. And so he's able to be out in the yard with his kids. He's able to access it that's not in grass on his wheelchair. And it's just these kind of stories that I just love. And then one more I'm going to talk about. Because this was a very sudden occurrence for this person. And she's 17, and she had a stroke. And it was from a blood clot. Led to a stroke. She was in an induced coma for weeks, and she is now out, and she's in rehab, but she went from being a very happy, healthy, active 17-year-old to now being confined to round-the-clock care. And mom has stopped working because she now requires round-the-clock care. Dad is still working, trying to now support a second income. And it was just, and it came so out of nowhere. A lot of these times you have a diagnosis from birth or things happen, and this truly came out of nowhere for this family. And what we're able to do is, she's currently finishing up her rehab, but when she comes home, she's going to have a space that has been accommodated and made accessible to her. And we are taking care of the renovations in her bedroom. So she now has that care available to her. She's able to get in and out of her bed more quickly, with more ease, and obviously still with assistance. But it's these things that are kind of nagging at parents or at families. And gosh, I really wish I could do this, or it would be such a help to have this burden off of my plate for now. And it's one less thing for them to have to worry about.
I can imagine. I mean, like you said, especially when it's a sudden thing, it's like you're dealing with the issue at hand.
Right.
But then there's all these corollary issues.
You don't even think about.
Right. And until they come up. And to be able to address those needs. Then they can really, as a parent especially, right? Then a parent can really focus their mental and emotional energy on loving and taking care
Where
of their
it should
kid.
be.
Yeah.
And that's it's such a good point. When you have, especially something that happens to your child, there are so many things to think about, and all you want to do is be there for your kid. And that's exactly what we want to do. I don't want to make this process any harder than it needs to be. I want to help you through it. Let's figure this out on your time and as you are able to. And let's think about some of these things that you may not be thinking about yet.
Yeah.
You may not be thinking, okay, when she comes home, where's she going to go? Yeah. But I do think about that. I have the pleasure and the liberty to be able to think about that because I'm not worried about your child in the way that you are.
That's what's really neat. I love that you talk about being able to like point someone in the direction of another foundation maybe. You really become like a point person. Right? For helping them through not just maybe this one specific need, but
exactly.
So you must
seeing the bigger picture.
You must make a lot of relationships. I mean,
yes.
Through your job. I mean, it's probably
absolutely.
pretty fulfilling. Yeah.
And I love when I get an email of, even if it's not what I do, hey, do you know anybody who can help get them in for an evaluation? Yeah. Yes, I do. And let me help you through that, because I see it so many times. There are so many nonprofits out there that do amazing work. And they always are strapped, right? That's the world of nonprofit. Anybody who works in that knows there's not enough time, there's not enough funding, there's not enough, there's always all of these excuses. And I am lucky enough to have, like I said, many volunteers who help out with things that I am able to devote that time to the individuals and to make those connections. And I love seeing those emails come through, even if it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to make that connection for somebody.
Well, like you said too, because I mean, I even think about it in my business. You could apply it to any business, but when you work in a certain area, the ins and outs. You know the providers and partners that are reliable.
Yep.
Maybe you know the ones that aren't as reliable. And so so to be able to be a resource like that for someone to make, because as you said, like especially if you're walking into this new adventure, a phase of life where you or your loved ones are facing a physical disability that you never anticipated, it's like entering a whole new world.
It's
right?
A completely new world
that things you would never think about. So that's amazing that you get to not only meet the need, but really be a help altogether. So then let me ask you, so talk a little bit about we've talked about who you can help,
yes.
but who can help you? Who can help ATI Foundation to be able to serve people better?
So we're actually in the process right now, which will roll out in the fall, of a corporate sponsorship package. And the way that we're doing that, because we have a large footprint, is we've divided it up into our districts. And so we are allocating specific corporate level sponsorships to the districts that we're in. So we have 42 across the nation. Okay. God, I don't even know how many are in. Again, don't know anything about physical therapy. I don't know how many are in Illinois, but there's a huge. We are largely in Illinois, so at least 15 opportunities for that. And we're asking for a yearly sponsorship of $5,000. And what that is you are going to be the named presenter to a beneficiary. Of course, you can say all you want about, right, your logo, and we'll put this on the website and social media, which is wonderful, and it's always good for business. But most importantly, you are going to be the difference for that beneficiary. And we will invite you to any awards presentation, things like that we have. We really want to we want to make a local impact. Yeah. And we want it to be a difference in the community that you're in. It doesn't make sense for everybody to be supporting this like national campaign, right? It doesn't.
You feel disconnected, right? Yeah.
You feel a little disconnected. Yeah. And we want anybody who does support us in that way, we want them to drive where this is going to and like the community that they are ingrained in. And so that is one way. We also continually have events and campaigns that you can donate to, but yeah, 100% of our giving relies on donations. Yeah. So if you're an individual who wants to donate, we would be more than happy to obviously accept any and all donations, but especially with these corporate sponsorships and partners that we're looking for, and we want you to be part of the conversation.
I think, and that's why I mentioned like the gap before, right? I mean, it's something it's talked about in the nonprofit community, in the church community. I mean, my opinion is that there's plenty of people to help.
Yes.
Right? In especially this country, right? And especially in Naperville.
Yes.
Right? Naperville. Hey, I mean, let's be honest, right? We're blessed as a city to be energetic, well-resourced city. And so I think there's plenty of people out there, but I think if we can help them understand the importance of their giving, and I love that you connect it directly, so they really know, like, okay, if I'm going to invest my time, my energy, my money, can I really see an impact? And
right,
it sounds
you want to know where it's going,
for sure.
And that's a very fair ask of anybody who's giving money. You know what I mean? I feel like I've just seen that so many times, and that's a big part of the reason why it's a one-man show over there, right? Because we want to be able to pull resources from where we can so that the donations that we get are truly going to our cause. And we want to make that so that you can be a part of that impact and that you can see where it's happening.
So tell everybody, where can they find, give us the website. How can they reach out?
So our website is atifoundation.com. Hopefully you can remember that.
Yep. We'll put a link below.
Yeah, right. But really, truly, by reaching out directly to me is going to be that easiest path, and I can help you with whatever you're looking to do. We can cater a package specific to you. Even if you are a business and you have somebody in mind who could benefit, please reach out to me, because we can. There's a bunch of different ways that we can work this, and we just want to make that impact, and we want you to be part of that.
And you have some events coming up this year?
We actually just finished up with our big event, but we do have a campaign that we're going to be running at least from October to December 3rd, which is our $1 million movement. And so that's our goal. Our goal is $1 million across the nation. So that'll be a big one coming up. All that information will be available on the website as well. And then I don't think we have any large events in this area. My next one will be out in Baltimore. Okay. So if you're from Baltimore.
Hey, there's people connected all over. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much. I mean, every time I talk to you, I hear the passion for what you do. And that's why I really wanted to share that with Naperville and beyond. Thanks for being here. We'll put all the information down below. If you want to support ATI Foundation, please do. Please consider it. And reach out directly to Shelley, because if you haven't figured it out in the time that you've been listening or watching, like, she's a fantastic person. She will love any help that you can give. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, on YouTube. My thanks to Shelley again for being here.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time on Naperville Real Talk.